He lives in Atlanta, and he's married for 21 years and has 4 amazing children. Benj, for the next 12 minutes, we get to be soaked in your treatment of this question. And the question is, how do you gain clarity on the things that matter most as a business owner? Good morning, Benj. Welcome.
Good morning. That was a very thorough introduction. I appreciate that. Saurel, let me start by asking you a question.
Go for it.
Where do you get your best ideas?
I get my best ideas from listening to other people.
Okay. How about somebody else? I'm going to put somebody on the spot. Mark, thanks for joining. Where do you get your best ideas?
I'm a lot like Saurel. I learn the most from other people.
Oh, hold on. We got 2 Marks. I didn't even see that.
You got to specify.
I do. Mark Bowling, you were rolling, and then I'm coming to you, Mark Ham.
I agree with Saurel. I get it from other people. I love just being around people, especially people that might have different thoughts and perspectives that I can learn from.
Good. Mark Ham.
Meditation. I'll go to sleep with an issue or a problem, and I'm thinking about something, and I'll wake up with the answer.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm the same way, like probably falling asleep or the shower. The shower is probably when I've had my most brilliant breakthroughs. And so it makes you go, well, why is that? And if I was to tie it to just a reflection on our culture today, we've known that we are hunters and we are gatherers. And so in an information age, we are hunting and gathering information 24/7, and we can't get enough. We crave it. We're always out there looking. And the problem with that is that the greatest breakthroughs for our own life, the answers are already within us. The biggest thing we can do is create the space to have those conversations, to let the muse, the inspiration, that light bulb moment come in. And that's why we need to go to the gym. We need to go for a walk. We need to work on a project that takes our mind off of the problem and allows for these creative problem solvings. As Saurel said, I spend most of my time, as I say, helping business owners get what they want out of their businesses. The problem is I walk in most of the time and most people don't know what they want. And that can be the single most difficult question for them to answer. So this is something that I've wrestled with through my work personally a lot. And I was challenged earlier in the year to synthesize it, put it in a book. So as you'll see it up here, this month, we're releasing the Clarity Field Guide. And I'm going to give you the entire cheat sheet of the whole book. You can still go buy it. But here's the cheat sheet. We all live in what we've termed the creator's cycle. So we don't necessarily know it, but we're typically in one of 4 seasons, just mentally, emotionally, physically, our energy levels, our spirit levels. So we go through these cycles of planning, executing, the doldrums, and cocooning. I'm going to walk you through and talk you through those, but they match up to the seasons that we experience in nature. This is a thing that is there and it's ever present. If you want me to get really awkward, I can tell you females have it a little easier because you can track this on a 28-day cycle. Men are chaotic and sporadic, so it's a little more difficult. But let me go through what this looks like. So when we're in spring, we're in the planning season. We've got a lot of energy. We've got a lot of new ideas. One of the things we're at risk of doing is saying yes to too many things, because we can take on the world in a planning season. We've just got all this new energy to pour into all these different areas of our lives. And so, and we're really good at putting the plans together to be able to go into summer. And summer is when we execute. Summer is when the seeds are planted. We've got to take care of the fields. We've got to tend to the animals. We're just full go, full executing in the summer. We have a lot of focus. We've carried that energy and the planning, that dreaming state from the planning into the executing stage. So now it's just we have extra amount of focus, and we are just plowing forward. A lot of advancement. We don't even have the time to like question ourselves. We're just going hard, and we can get a lot done in the summer. We really feel like we're using more of our unique abilities in that season. And then here's the interesting thing: success or failure in the summer leads to the fall. It leads to the doldrums. So sometimes we hit this success, we achieved what we wanted to achieve, and the fulfillment that we thought we'd get from it wasn't there. Or we went into summer, we worked our butt off, and we failed. And so the irony is that both of those lead to the same conclusion, which is the fall. It's this doldrums. If you think about the fall, you think about the pumpkin spice latte, and I'm curling up with a candle and a blanket by the fire. Like, I just want to insulate and come into myself. Some people can even take this almost to a low-grade depression sort of feeling. The energy has been zapped, and we are living in the doldrums. And then we get into winter. Winter is when the seasons start to shift, and it's very subtle. So we call it cocooning, like a caterpillar would go and build its cocoon and live in this cocoon, and then slowly emerge as a butterfly, slowly emerge into spring. This idea of cocooning, we start to be introspective. We start to ask the real questions. What do I want? What's interesting? Where do I want to spend my time? What do I want this next season of life to come from? We find spiritual renewal, personal renewal, a sense of confidence to be able to then go back and start dreaming again and start planning in that season. And it's a cycle. And the number one thing that we can do for ourselves is understand that it's a cycle and not beat ourselves up for being. And why am I back here in the doldrums? Maybe you guys are special and never get in the doldrums. Man, it hits me and I'm like, what's my problem? Life is good. Like, there's nothing, there's nothing that is wrong with me, wrong with my world, but I have the funk. I have some sort of feels right now. What is that about? It's the cycle. So to understand that I'm in the cycle, and just like you say, I am where I am, you are where you are. And if we can embrace it and work with it, then we can start to create the space to ask ourselves the questions that fit the season that we're in. So the Clarity Field Guide sets this up. It explains the season. We have a quick little assessment to help you figure out what assessment you're in. And then the majority of the book is just a bunch of questions. So if you're in the planning season, let's go ask some planning type questions. We want to create the space to ask the right questions, because our belief behind this book is that the answers that you need most, no one else can give you, and they're not out there anywhere. They're already in you, and you just have to, sometimes it's scary. Some people are really, really scared to go ask themselves the hard questions. And so there's a level of courage that it takes to sit down with a hard question and a blank sheet of paper and be honest with yourself. And so that's what this idea and movement, and we're really trying to encourage people to find clarity, not out there, not in the newest self-help program, but like in yourself. What is it? What is the clarity that you can give you if you just have a little bit of a guide to go with it? So that's where we're at. I'm here for you. Any questions around it? But that's it, man. It's you guys understanding who you are, what you want out of the business, what you want out of the job that you're in, and being really honest. I'll give you one example. I'm working with this girl in Germany right now, and we were going through her BTO, which in our world is like a 2-page strategic plan. And she had a lot of mind trash about how she had to grow this business. And I'm like, once we got to what do you want, we created a very simple model that said, hey, I want a business that provides this for me, this to run the business, and this much profit. And I was like, and we were talking about her 3-year plan. So I'm like, how long do you really think it would take you to get there? And she stopped for a minute. She said, I think I'm there. I think I'm there. she had all of this mind trash about what she had to create and produce and be. And, I've got a business, so it's got to grow and I've got to figure out how to scale and whatever. She's like, I'm there. I have what I truly want. And if I would stop trying to get more, I would be a lot more at peace with myself. But it takes that challenge to yourself to really determine and be courageous with, what do I really want?
Wow. Benj, thank you for bringing a new definition to being present. Life as a business owner is a cycle. And if we can be with the fact that that's just it is that cycle, and you're in one phase or the other. And so where are you? Right where you're supposed to be.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Giovanni, what's bubbling up over there?
Oh, I was really loving the conversation, and I really like when you were pointing to, Benj, that at times in my life, I'm like you said, I'm telling myself, hold on, man, there's nothing wrong here. Why are you feeling all doomed about life? So I really love the opportunity of seeing in what cycle I'm in, and just kind of embracing it. And it's true that, and it's also true for me that the best ideas come at a random moment, whether it's in the shower, whether it's in walking, whether it's in sleeping, or hearing a conversation. And what I noticed is that sometimes I implement them, and sometimes I doubt myself. Like, I know they're great ideas, right? And they're like, should I go for it? And I think too much, and then I don't, right? And when I don't think too much, then I go for it. And I'm all nervous about it, all of that stuff. And on the other side, it's always something great of implementing a bad idea. So anyway, I love the conversation. I want to keep going, but I see Lori K's, her hand is up, so I'll come back around. Go ahead, Lori K.
Yeah, I really love this concept of the seasons a lot. And you talked about the cycle for women being the 28 days, and for men it's a little more chaotic. But my question is I mean, when I look at my life, I think there's a lot of different cycles. That was more like the micro cycle, and then there's the yearly cycle, and even the 9-month cycle, and then there's the lifetime cycle, and all of that. And you really have gotten me thinking, and I love you calling out about beating ourselves up because we're not where we think we're supposed to be, because we were high over here when we're in spring and summer, and then when we come down, it's kind of like when you go on a really great vacation, you come home and you're like, all the excitement's done, and instead of relishing in that moment of being quiet and introspective and realizing the value of that, we sometimes do go into a little depression and sadness and a lull. But can you talk a little bit more about the bigger cycles and the times on those cycles, so we can kind of recognize or have bigger expectations of those cycles?
So you're exactly right. You think about, we've had 4 kids. So when you have a kid, there's so many hormones involved with that, and the postpartum that comes, and you can get stuck in the doldrums for longer than you would ever dream to be. And some people, need help, real help, like getting out of them. The reason I can't speak to it too much, Lori K, because it's really, really complex, because
Okay.
you are absolutely right that there's these huge macro cycles, and then you've got your macro cycles, you've got your micro cycles. So the way that we just took all that complexity and made it really simple is this little assessment that is kind of like a flow chart, this, and it just kind of tells you you're probably in this season right now. So let's go over to that section. Let's find a question that challenges you or scares you or welcomes you, that like kind of invites you into that, and just embrace that in that season. The other thing between what Giovanni was saying and what you were asking, Lori Kay, is I'm reminded, I was just talking to Dr. Benjamin Hardy, who writes the books for Dan Sullivan, and his next book that he's writing, I'm going to give the whole thing away right now, but he talks about the principle of the gap and the gain. And part of our messed up psychology in our culture today is that we live constantly in the gap of where we are versus where we think we should be, where we are versus where our neighbor is. So we're constantly living in the gap of us and our ideal self. Now, I'm all about pushing for your ideal self, but his premise is that we're much better off if we're measuring the gain instead of the gap. Look back 3 months ago, where were we? Look back 6 months. Look 3 years ago, where were you? And really take the time to think about the progress you've made as a human, as a person, in relationship, in business. And when we start measuring the gain, then all we can do is be grateful and celebrate and get motivated for the next level of gain that's not from a less than standpoint of I'm not what I'm supposed to be right now.
Mhm.
Great. Brilliant. Thank you.
You know, Benj, I'm I'm present to, there's no time set for each of the phases in the cycle. You know, back to I am where I am. I'm recalling a time when I was speaking to a friend of mine who's an artist, and I said, "Man, where have you been?" He goes, "I've been working." I said, "What do you mean you've been working?" He said, "Yes, for 3.5 months, I've locked myself up in my studio. I haven't eaten. I maybe I've showered once." and here's this masterpiece. Now, what he was working on was this huge painting for one of the larger museums in New Orleans. And after that, after producing this huge masterpiece, he still had the fall season. I mean, you'd think, oh my God, you know, I mean, you should see this painting, right? Yet he still had the fall season. And he stayed there for as long as he stayed there. And, you know, my tendency as a doer was to go to him and try to rescue him from the fall. Right. And I'm discovering in this conversation, there's no need to rescue myself from the fall and no need to rescue others from the fall. That's just where they are. And sooner or later, there will be the winter, they'll cocoon, and they'll pop out again with a big dream and a plan. Now, as I'm saying this, the question comes to my head. Is there such a thing as being in any one of these phases of the cycle too long, or maybe being stuck in one and not realizing it? And what kind of nudge does your book and the questions included there provide?
So I'm just now diving into that question, Saurel, because in producing this, one of the guys that we respect and work with a lot is an ex-Green Beret who really was critical in turning around the Afghan war. When he went to the generals and said, "Hey, look, we've got to stop fighting against the Afghan people and start fighting for them." And it changed their methodology about how they went around it. So I respect this guy a ton. He read our manuscript and he called with this is a big, tough dude. And he was so solemn and said, "Hey, I've already taken these seasons and mapped them to what an enlisted soldier goes through as they transition to civilian life." And in talking and this is a guy who was very successful in the military, came out, and what we've learned is the military gives you two things. It gives you purpose and structure to a very, very high degree. And when you transition to becoming a civilian, you're now left on your own devices to find purpose and structure, to which you've never been taught how to do that for yourself.
Hmm.
And as he mapped these seasons to what you go through as you come out of military service, you know, he was the guy that was in the closet with the 45 pointed at his head, about to pull the trigger, when his son walks down the hallway. And that's the only thing that stopped him and changed his life. And he said, there's too many guys that I served with that got stuck in fall. And we can use these questions to help them get out, to help them find their purpose, to help them find some structure. So yeah, there's things that we can do. Usually when people get trapped, it's one of two things. They execute so long and so hard because they're afraid to stop. You know how people, they go through a really busy season in life, and then they get a free day and they end up sick. Like our bodies know. Our bodies are capable of pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And some of our personalities are wired to push and push and push and push. But sometimes we're doing that because we're afraid to let off the gas. We're afraid of what happens when we're alone with ourselves without this identity tied in the responsibility that we've given ourselves.
Thank you for that, Benj. Thank you.
This is phenomenal, Benj. I mean, I didn't know you were this smart. I mean, I knew you were smart, but this is like amazing.
I just repeat what other people tell me, Giovanni.
This is really great. This is really
I stole it
phenomenal.
all from somewhere else.
So I wanted to get your thoughts, and I really want to welcome everybody, anyone else who wants to raise their hand, so you can get a little piece of Benj. One of the things that was coming up for me as you were sharing and Saurel was sharing is there is this aspect of, and I think you were pointing to it, but I'm going to say it again, that Saurel was saying there is that season of seeing someone after going through hard work and creating a masterpiece, and they're going to be in some degree going to be doomed. I mean, I'm sorry, they're going to go to that cycle of feeling doomed, like feeling down. And then you are also pointing to that in some way, people like in the army who had so much purpose and had so much structure, and that was a great conversation to expand on. And then they're going into the next season, which is feeling like the fall and winter, feeling doomed again. And Saurel was pointing to, well, there's that aspect of leaving them where they're at, which is healthy, right? And at the same time, you were pointing to, well, not so long. Too long it can become your new reality kind of thing, right? And so any thoughts on how to dance with that? Because my whole life,
Yeah,
it's about getting people out of their winter, out of their fall. I don't care where you're at, right? And so, but I'm seeing something to dance with here. Go ahead.
I think that dance analogy is perfect because that's what it is. And if we can, I think where we mess up and where we just absolutely miss it is that we have no idea that we're in a season. And the one thing that happens when we get in a season but don't know it is we think it's our new forever reality. And so I used to get really nervous about entering the doldrums like this was my new reality. And now I can go, oh, this is a season. I'm just going to chill out because it's going to pass. And I know the beauty that's on the other side of this. And I don't push it. Now you get into I think the military example is an extreme example. And I think there are people that get stuck somewhere and need some help. But to like what Saurel was saying, some of the best thing you can do is help that artist go, man, yeah, you wore it out on that project and you got to recover. This is an athlete life too, right? Athletes sleep, professional athletes sleep more than any other humans on the planet because they know the power and importance of recovery. And so nobody's shaming those athletes for sleeping 12 hours a day because they get up and go to the gym when they wake up, So It is a dance, and it's a dance to understand and not judge the person, you know, to bring them the cocoa and the candle and the blanket and sit next to them in their doldrums without trying to get them out. It's, you know, one of the things that we try and do to people is we try and get them to answer big life, purpose, identity questions in the doldrums. It's the wrong time. You think of yourself as a pile of shit. You don't want to make decisions based on that. So like, just don't ask those type of questions in that season and let it pass.
Very good.
Benj, you pointed to not beating ourselves up when we're in a season. And I'm seeing for myself the automatic, like it's right there. Every time I go to the doldrum, it's like, oh, it's my fault.
Yes.
There's something about me that
What did I do wrong?
Work that actually is making me feel that way. And what you're creating with this is an access for me to have a little compassion for myself. Yeah, I'm an athlete. I just ran a marathon, and now it's time to nurse myself back to top shape, you know, whatever that is. So
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
That's so great. Such a great conversation. Thank you, Saurel. Thank you, Benj.
Looks like Mark Bowling has a question.
Okay, well, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, it's not as much as a question, it's just kind of building on that idea. Benj is kind of familiar with my life story. A couple of years ago, when our family went through a really, really hard situation. My youngest son was 10 at the time. And, you know, I was able to sit down with him and help him recognize over time, you know, it's good to feel the way that you're feeling. There's nothing wrong with feeling the way that you're feeling. And I kind of associate that with kind of the fall and winter seasons of accepting that those feelings are valid. You have to give voice to them. You can't push them away. You can't bury them. But I said, you know, I tried to help him understand that you can't live there. You know, you'll never achieve, you know, the greatest potential that you have to become the man that I know that you can become if you are stuck in that season. And I think that's the truth for us, you know, professionally and, you know, in our jobs and in so many areas of life. And so Benj, what I really love is just the idea and the methodology that you bring on helping kind of move through those seasons. So I just want to say thanks.
Yeah, you might be highlighting a better answer to Giovanni's question though too, because trauma is a whole nother animal. You know, you getting to the doldrums because of trauma is a break in the natural cycle. You didn't get there from a natural cycle. Something interrupted it, shattered it. But the thing that you can also take is for your son, for him to know when he starts feeling better, you know what, you're going to have those days where you end up in that same place. And that's natural, normal, and you can feel those things.
It's so great. There's an interruption to the natural cycle, and then there's that to take into account. I love it. Lori K just posted a question in the chat. I don't know if that's your question, Lori K, as we're wrapping up. How do we get your book? And then we gotta make sure that we get the book. Benj, we gotta make sure we get the book. Come on.
How do I point to it? clarityfieldguide.com. Actually, we're a little slow. We hope to have it out by the time we talk to you guys this morning, but we're still a couple weeks away. But you can sign up to on clarityfieldguide.com, and we'll let you know the minute you can grab it on Amazon. Should be about 2 weeks.
Awesome. Well, we'll have you back to talk about the book again. I can't get enough of Benj. Saurel, how do you want to wrap us up?
Simply by giving Benj his last words, because right now he probably wasn't expecting that. And I know some miracle is going to happen and just gold's going to spill out of his mouth.
No pressure there.
Benj.
No pressure there. You know, I'm just gonna put this back on you guys, because again, I'm not gonna give you that magical piece. The magical answer is gonna come when you sit down and take the time to answer the question that you've been hesitating to actually put some definition to. And part of the reason we get scared to do that is we think we're writing it forever. Write your now answer. You can change it tomorrow, you can change it in a year, but write your now answer and commit to your now answer.
I love that, Benj. So what's the answer to the question? The one you have right now. And Giovanni, that's a perfect note to end today's Daily Huddle on. Mark Bowling, thank you for being here. Shelley Delmar, new to the room, thank you for being here. All of you. Andrea, thank you for putting up with our jokes. Love you guys. Benj, it's been phenomenal. Mackenzie, thank you for creating Benj being here with us. I appreciate that. Love you all. Until tomorrow.
Thank you, Benj. Thank you very much.
It was awesome, Ben. I really appreciate it.
Eye-opening. My pleasure.
Nice to see everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.